Machiavelli understood something about manipulation that modern psychology is only now catching up to. In most rooms, most of the time, some people are participants and some people are prey. The difference between them isn't intelligence. It isn't experience. It isn't strength. It's one thing, whether you can see the trap while you're standing inside it. You walked out of that meeting running the numbers in your head. What did I say? Did I misread the situation? Am I remembering this wrong? You're smart. You've been in rooms like that for years. You know how to hold a position, how to argue without losing composure, how to bring evidence. You came in prepared. You left infected, with a specific kind of doubt that wasn't there when you walked in. Not because you lost, because you were harvested. Here's what they'll never tell you. You didn't lose that argument. You were engineered to lose it. The confusion you're carrying right now isn't weakness. It's the payload, the thing the interaction was designed to leave inside you. Niccolo Machiavelli spent 30 years watching how intelligent men get destroyed inside political hierarchies. Not by force, not by superior intellect, by a specific category of move, covert, structural, and nearly invisible to anyone who doesn't know what they're looking for. What researchers now call narcissistic abuse follows a predictable pattern that Machiavelli documented centuries before psychology had a name for it. Most people read The Prince as a manual for power. They missed the other half. Machiavelli also wrote for the man who survives the predator. He didn't just teach kings how to conquer, he taught intelligent men how to survive being hunted by kings. But Machiavelli's greatest secret wasn't how to use these weapons. It was how to build a nervous system that makes them physically impossible to land. He called it the shield, but in the modern world, we have a better name for it: social immunity. By the end of this, no one runs this play on you again. The first thing you need to understand: covert manipulation isn't emotional, it's structural. When you assume manipulation is about someone having a bad day, acting out of spite, or losing their temper, you're already inside the trap. Because the manipulation that does the most damage doesn't look like aggression, it looks like concern. It sounds like calm reason. It arrives in the voice of the most composed person in the room, who somehow always leaves you questioning yourself and never leaves any fingerprints. It's a machine. It runs the same loop on every target. The manipulator doesn't even need to understand it. They just need to notice it works. And it always does. The mechanics have a name. Susan Forward, the psychologist who coined the term, calls it FOG: fear, obligation, guilt. These aren't just emotions. They're the three doors into your decision-making that any manipulator, conscious or not, can walk through without your permission. Call them what they are: entry points. Fear doesn't need a direct threat, just uncertainty with a shape. I'm not sure where this leaves us. No consequence named, just the outline of one, hanging in the air. Your mind fills in the rest. Obligation turns history into debt. Every past favor, every loyalty, every investment retroactively converted into something you owe. After everything I've done, after all the years, what was freely given becomes a ledger with a balance you can never quite reach zero. Guilt activates your own standards against you. The higher your integrity, the harder this one lands. I thought you were the kind of person who valued honesty. They don't attack your behavior, they attack your self-concept. Your values become the knife in their hand. These three doors are just the atmosphere, the room they walk you into. What comes next is the actual trap, and it starts the moment you try to push back. The first move they make when you push back, they don't argue your facts, they argue your right to have them. Denial and minimization. You bring a specific incident, date, words, witnesses, and instead of defending their behavior, which would at least be honest, they engage your perception itself. You're being incredibly sensitive. That's not what happened at all. I can't believe you're still thinking about this. Your facts don't get challenged. They get dismissed as symptoms of your unreliability. The battlefield shifts from what happened to whether you're capable of accurately perceiving what happened. And now you're defending your sanity instead of pressing your point. The original incident walks out the back door while the argument moves to the front. But denial is just the opening move. The second marker is darker, and Machiavelli specifically wrote about why it's so effective against intelligent men. Because it uses your intelligence against you. Blame shifting and projection. They accuse you of the exact thing they're doing. You name their dishonesty. Suddenly you're defending your own truthfulness. You identify their control. Now you've become the controlling one. You point to their aggression, and you're the aggressor. This is a mirror tactic, designed to achieve one outcome: put you on defense. Researchers call this pattern DARVO: deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. The moment you're defending yourself against their accusation, you've walked away from your original position. You're no longer holding them accountable. You're the one being evaluated. They stepped off the examination table and put you on it. In the court, Machiavelli watched this move destroy men who were smarter, more principled, and better informed than the people running it on them. Because intelligence doesn't protect you from the mirror, it makes you more vulnerable to it. An intelligent person takes the accusation seriously. They pause and ask, "Am I actually doing what they're saying?" That moment of honest self-examination, fair-minded, reasonable, virtuous, is exactly the gap the tactic slips through. The room you sit in every day runs the same rules that governed Florence in 1513. In the court, power moved through perception. The most dangerous man wasn't the strongest. He was the one who controlled what everyone else believed was happening. Human nature hasn't been updated. Consider what Machiavelli observed watching Cesare Borgia operate in the Romagna. Borgia didn't conquer through force alone. He created environments where the men around him could never quite get their feet under them, never certain enough of where they stood to act, never clear enough on his intentions to organize. The confusion wasn't a side effect of his rule. It was the engine of it. Everyone was too busy second-guessing their own reads to see the next move coming. The modern principality runs the same engine. The meetings where the agenda shifts mid-conversation, the feedback calibrated to be just ambiguous enough to mean anything. The person at the center, who always appears reasonable, while everyone around them quietly accumulates self-doubt. It's not dysfunction, it's architecture. And inside that architecture, there are two structures. The first is the one you can see, the org chart, the titles, the official chain of command. The second is what Machiavelli would recognize immediately, the shadow hierarchy, the real network of loyalty, information flow, and influence that determines what actually happens. The org chart tells you who has the title. The shadow hierarchy tells you who controls the outcome. The manipulator lives in the gap between the two. Their official position is rarely where their real power sits. They operate through access, through relationships you can't see from the outside, through information they release selectively and withhold strategically. And if you're navigating by the official map, the one everyone can see, you will never understand why things keep going wrong for you. You're playing a visible game on top of an invisible one. The shield is the only way to navigate the shadow hierarchy without becoming its next harvest. And it starts with the weapons. 6 of them. They run in sequence. And once you see the sequence, you can't unsee it. Weapon 1. Gaslighting. Not an argument, a campaign. One conversation that ends with you confused. That's a miscommunication. A pattern of them sustained over weeks or months, each one leaving your certainty a little more eroded. That's a weapon being deployed with intent. Here's what most people miss. Your confusion isn't the byproduct. It's the product, the goal. Think of it like an infection. A pathogen doesn't want to kill the host immediately. Dead hosts don't spread. It wants to weaken you just enough that you reach for help. And when you reach for help, you reach for whoever is nearby, whoever seems to have clarity when you don't. A person who no longer trusts their own mind needs someone else's interpretation of reality. Whose interpretation is available? The person who's been managing their perception all along. It sounds like this. That's not what I said. Even when you remember exactly what they said, you're imagining things. Even when you have the message in your inbox, everyone else thinks you're overreacting. Even when you've spoken to no one else, the message, delivered with calm certainty across dozens of interactions, your reading of reality is wrong. Their reading is correct. Stop trusting yourself. Start consulting me. They don't need to control your actions if they can control your perception. A person who can't trust their own eyes will follow whatever guide claims to see clearly, even when that guide is the one who put the blindfold on. Weapon 2. avoidance, and subject shifting. Bring them accountability. Watch what happens. They don't engage it, they dissolve it. Can we talk about what happened in Tuesday's meeting? Suddenly we're talking about something you did 6 months ago. Suddenly we're examining how you always bring things up at the wrong time. Suddenly the conversation is about your communication style, your tendency toward conflict, the pattern of how difficult it is to work through anything with you, and the Tuesday incident has vanished. No residue, no acknowledgement, no record. Accountability never lands because the target keeps moving. You're pressing on a point, and the point relocates. By the time the conversation ends, nothing was addressed, nothing was resolved, and you're holding an apology you don't remember deciding to give. The target didn't drift, it was moved by someone who understands that accountability, once established, constrains behavior, so they ensure it never establishes. Weapon 3. Intentional emotional escalation. They provoke you, then they document your response. The dismissal calibrated to sting, the condescension wrapped in professional language, the undermining disguised as a question, each one positioned inside enough plausible deniability that you can't name it directly. And when the frustration surfaces, when the reaction they engineered arrives, they don't engage it. They step back and label it. This is exactly what I was talking about. See what I mean? This is what it's like trying to work through anything with you. Your reaction becomes the story. Their provocation disappears from the record. The official account reads, "You escalated." They stayed calm. You are the volatile one. They are the reasonable one navigating a difficult situation. They pull the pin and wait. The moment you react, they've won. The moment you don't, they find a pin with more pressure. They need the explosion. Without it, the weapon doesn't fire. In 1502, Cesare Borgia needed to pacify the Romagna, a region torn apart by local warlords and internal conflict. His solution was a man named Ramiro de Orco. Borgia gave de Orco absolute authority and a single mandate: restore order by any means necessary. De Orco delivered. He ruled with ruthless efficiency, crushing resistance, eliminating opposition, creating the stability Borgia needed. The region feared him and despised him. That was the plan. When de Orco had served his purpose, when Borgia had extracted everything useful from the fear he'd generated, Borgia had him arrested, then executed, then displayed in the public square of Cesena, cut in half, placed between a bloodied knife and a block of wood. The people were horrified and grateful. Borgia stood among them as the man who had delivered them from de Orco's cruelty, the same cruelty Borgia had engineered, authorized, and used for his own ends. Machiavelli was there, he wrote. The ferocity of this spectacle left the people at once satisfied and stupefied. Borgia had played the victim of his own monster. He provoked the conditions, waited for the suffering to build, then stepped forward as the rescuer. The people's rage, legitimate, earned, completely real, became the instrument of his consolidation. What Borgia executed at a geopolitical scale in 1502, someone in your life may be running on you right now. They created the conditions. They provoked your reaction. And now they're standing in the square, looking composed and wronged, while you're the spectacle. Look at your own life. Who is the Borgia? Who is the monster they're using to make themselves look like the hero? Weapon 4. Playing the victim. The role reversal is the most effective tool in the entire playbook, not because it's subtle. Once you know what to look for, it's the most visible move of all. It works because it weaponizes the instincts of everyone watching. You address something real, a documented grievance, a clear violation, a pattern you can demonstrate. They experience it as an attack. Suddenly, in real time, in front of whoever is present, they become the wronged party. They came here in good faith. They're the ones being treated this way. The witnesses don't have your history. They see someone who appears hurt and someone who appears to be the cause. Human beings align with the person who seems to be suffering, not because they're naive, because that's what empathy does. And empathy, here, is the exploit. Your allies grow uncertain. Your credibility erodes, and you're now defending yourself against someone who absorbed your legitimate grievance and converted it into their persecution narrative, with an audience present for the conversion. Weapon 5. Emotional blackmail. After everything I've done for you, after all the years we've built together, I thought loyalty meant something to you. Past investment, time, access, support, opportunity. Retroactively reframed as debt. What was freely given becomes something you owe. The currency of repayment is compliance. The debt never reaches zero because the moment you approach it, more is added. Loyalty becomes a leash. History becomes a hostage. The relationship itself, the thing you valued most, becomes the mechanism of extraction. The formula never changes. Frame your refusal as betrayal. Make a reasonable boundary feel like abandonment. Keep the debt large enough that it can't be repaid, so the leverage never expires, so you can never get free without feeling like the villain of your own story. If you feel like the villain for setting a healthy boundary, congratulations. That feeling isn't a sign you went too far. It's confirmation that the leash just hit its limit. Don't apologize for the tension. That tension is the sound of the leash breaking. Weapon 6. Selective information control. The most sophisticated weapon, the hardest to detect, and it never requires a single lie. They control your reality by controlling what you know and what you don't. You're not given false information. You're given incomplete information. An incomplete picture is more dangerous than a false one because you can fact-check a lie. You can't fact-check a gap. You don't know what questions to ask when you don't know what's missing. The decision already made before you were consulted. The coalition forming around your position that you're not told about. The context that would reframe everything, withheld through deliberate omission, delivered with the calm of someone who believes they're being transparent. It feels like walking through a house you think you know, only to realize someone moved the walls while you were sleeping. You don't trip because you're clumsy. You trip because the floor isn't where it's supposed to be, and the person who moved the walls is standing right there, watching you stumble, offering to help you up. Information is currency. The person who controls its flow controls what everyone else believes is possible. The most dangerous position isn't having wrong information. It's being certain you have the full picture when you're missing the frame entirely. What you don't know, you don't know. That's their real weapon. Not lies. Gaps. Look at your phone right now. Open the last conversation with anyone who consistently leaves you feeling confused, at fault, or like you owe them something. Read the last 5 messages. Count how many of these 6 weapons appear. 1. Could be stress, a rough week, genuine misunderstanding. 3 or more. You're not in a difficult relationship. You're in a campaign, and now you know what it's called. These 6 weapons aren't random. They form a sequence with one purpose: isolate you from your own perception, prevent accountability from landing, convert witnesses against you, lock you in place through debt, and control the information that would let you see clearly enough to act. Isolate, destabilize, extract compliance. Psychologists call these traits the dark triad: Machiavellianism, narcissism, and psychopathy working in combination. Knowing the weapons isn't enough. You need the shield, and the shield is built from something that most people don't realize they can construct at all. The shield isn't emotional armor. That's the mistake most people make. They decide the solution is to feel less, to harden, close off, become the person who needs no one and therefore can't be leveraged. They burn the field so no one can harvest it. That's not immunity. A numb person isn't protected. They're a different kind of target, who's also lost the perception required to navigate anything complex. The shield is pattern recognition, the ability to identify the move while it's in motion, to say, calmly, inside your own mind, "This is gaslighting. This is the 3rd time this week. I see what's happening here." That's all it takes to step outside the frame. Every manipulation tactic runs on your unknowing participation. The frame only holds if you're inside it. The moment you name the move, even silently, even in the middle of the conversation, you step outside it. You remain present, but you're no longer inside the architecture they built around you. You cannot be gaslit by a move you can name in real time. The first layer. Name the tactic, not the person. You are a manipulator is an accusation. It escalates, triggers defense, and hands them the emotional reaction they need to make you the story. This is blame shifting is an observation. It lives inside your mind and doesn't require their agreement to be true. When you feel yourself being pulled onto the defense by a projection, you don't speak it aloud, you observe internally. This is projection. The original point hasn't changed. I'm not on trial here. You stay in the conversation. You hold your position. The tactic misfires around you because you weren't where it was aimed. The second layer. Control your information output. This was Machiavelli's core discipline. Not manipulation, not deception, sovereignty over your own strategic position. Reveal nothing until it's secured. Your plans, your doubts, your read of the room, sovereign territory. The manipulator's advantage is simple. They know more about you than you know about them. They use that gap to stay one move ahead of everything you do. Close it, not by gathering intelligence through deception, but by stopping the outflow. Stop announcing your next move before you make it. Stop processing frustrations with people whose loyalty is uncertain. Treat your intentions the way a chess player treats their strategy, visible in execution, invisible in formation. The man who broadcasts everything has no position. The man who reveals selectively holds every one of them. The third layer. Refuse the escalation bait. The provocation is real. The dismissal lands. The condescension stings. The anger is legitimate. You're not imagining it. And they're counting on you expressing it. A non-reaction isn't passivity. It's a controlled detonation that dismantles the trap without providing ammunition. When the provocation lands in silence. When your face doesn't shift. Your voice doesn't change. Your posture doesn't move. Their script breaks. The weapon requires your reaction to discharge. Without it, the move misfires. They've shown their hand and gotten nothing in return. Watch the micro-expression in that moment. The recalibration, the slight adjustment. That's the moment of power. You didn't win it by fighting. You won it by not being where they aimed. Renaissance strategists survived not through volume or force. They survived by being the least readable person in any room. In a court full of ambitious, reactive men competing for position, the person who gave nothing away was the most lethal force present. Lethality through opacity. The most dangerous man in the court wasn't the loudest. He was the least readable. The fourth layer. Build your own intelligence network. The signals are in the room. You have to know how to read them. Distrust spreading through a team, someone is seeding it. Information arriving late or filtered through a single source, someone controls the pipeline. Key people who can't compare notes, someone benefits from the divide. These patterns don't emerge randomly. They're fingerprints of an active hand. Your task is to identify the hand before it moves against you. This isn't paranoia. It's the discipline Machiavelli gave every prince who wanted to survive the court. Read the room, map the alliances, understand who benefits from the current arrangement. Because the person who benefits from your confusion is, with high probability, the person maintaining it. Build relationships outside the channels they control. Talk to people who get their information from different sources. Compare what you're told to what others are told. The gaps between the two versions. That's where the truth lives. That's where you'll find the hand. The fifth layer, acquired immunity. This is the layer no one talks about. And it's the most important one. Here's what happens the first time you successfully name a manipulation tactic while it's being run on you. The first time a gaslighting move arrives and instead of absorbing it, you think that's gaslighting. That's what this is. Something fires in your nervous system that doesn't unfire. You've been inoculated. Think of it exactly like a vaccine. The immune system doesn't learn to fight a pathogen by reading about it. It learns by surviving a controlled exposure, a weakened version of the threat, introduced in a context where it can't do fatal damage. The exposure triggers a response. The response builds antibodies. And those antibodies are permanent. Your social immune system works the same way. What psychologists call trauma bonding, the confusing attachment that forms through cycles of abuse and reconciliation, is actually this immunity system being hijacked. But when you understand the process, you can use it consciously. Every time you recognize a manipulation tactic in real time, even a small one, Your pattern recognition upgrades. Every time you hold your position under pressure that used to move you, your nervous system recalibrates what pressure actually means. Every time you name the move while you're still standing in the room, you build a response that will be there automatically the next time, without conscious effort. This is why people who've survived coercive environments often become the hardest people to manipulate. They didn't become hard, they became precise. They survived the infection and built the antibodies. They don't need to think consciously about whether they're being gaslit. They feel it before the sentence finishes. Think back to the most manipulative person you've ever known. The one who broke you. The one who left you questioning your own memory for months. That wasn't a tragedy. That was your first dose. You didn't just survive them. You were exposed so that you could never be caught by that specific strain again. Every tactic they ran on you left a mark your nervous system still carries. Not as damage, as data. Your brain knows that pattern now. It will never not know it. Do you see what that means? The person who hurt you most, they didn't destroy you, they inoculated you. The goal of everything in this script isn't to give you information. Information alone doesn't protect you. The goal is to give you a controlled exposure. Every tactic named, every pattern described, so that when the real version arrives, your system already has a response built. You're being inoculated right now. That's the shield in its truest form. Not awareness, immunity. Not knowing what the trap looks like, being the kind of person the trap slides off. The final reframe. Social immunity isn't passivity, it's sovereignty. The person who can't be manipulated isn't the person who trusts everyone. Trust isn't the variable. It isn't the person who suspects everyone either. Suspicion makes you reactive, and reactive people are the easiest to manage. The person who can't be manipulated is the person who needs no one's approval to trust themselves. They understand healthy psychological boundaries, not as walls, but as sovereignty made physical. That's the completed form, not a checklist, not a system. A relationship with your own perception so solid that when someone attempts to destabilize it, there's nothing to grab onto. They reach for your self-doubt and find bedrock. They try to install their version of reality and find a wall already standing. Not because you've closed yourself off, because you've done the work of knowing precisely, without apology, without the need for anyone's validation, what you saw, what you heard, what you know. The trap catches people who are uncertain about themselves. Become certain. The trap only works in the dark. You just turned on the light. The next time someone tries to gaslight you, the next time they tell you what you experienced wasn't real, don't argue. Don't explain. Don't defend. Look them in the eye. Say nothing. Hold it for 3 seconds. In those 3 seconds, you aren't waiting for them to speak. You're running a diagnostic on your own shield. Check what you feel, not what you think you should feel, what you actually feel. If you feel calm, you've won. The frame didn't land. The antibodies held. If you feel the need to explain yourself, to justify, to prove, the trap is still open. Note it, close it, not by arguing, by naming it, silently, and returning to ground. That 3-second silence is the shield made physical. It's the moment your sovereignty stops being a concept and becomes a fact, something you can feel in your own chest before you say a word. In the office, your manager tells you the meeting last week went differently than you remember. Don't correct them. Don't pull up your notes. Look at them. 3 seconds. Feel what's in your chest. If it's calm, you know what happened. If it's panic, that panic is the open door. Close it before you speak. In the family, a parent or sibling rewrites a conversation from years ago. The version they're telling makes you the problem. Don't argue the history. Hold eye contact. 3 seconds. Your memory of what happened is either solid or it isn't. The 3 seconds will tell you which. In the relationship, your partner tells you the reaction you had last night was crazy. You know what you felt and why. Hold. 3 seconds. If you're calm, say nothing yet. If you feel the pull to apologize before you've decided whether you owe one, that pull is the leash. Don't move. 3 seconds. Every time. It costs nothing and it tells you everything about the state of your own shield. Practice it. And now you carry it everywhere you go. Into every room, every meeting, every relationship where someone assumed your intelligence was a vulnerability they could access. They were counting on you to feel things before you understood them, counting on your confusion being faster than your recognition. It isn't anymore. Subscribe if you want the weapons they hide from the masses, and share this with someone who's still inside the trap. The shield isn't safety, it's sovereignty.